With no flying at all during the pandemic, my next guest has spent a lot of time on the ground recently. So here he recounts his time as a frequent flyer with high hopes that he'll be in the air soon. This is Chuck Brackett's story. Hi everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be conducting another interview with, of course, another person who flies very frequently. Not only does this person fly very frequently on one carrier, it was also able to get status on another carrier. Now, of course, this being the time of the pandemic, he has not flown much at all. As a matter of fact, he has not flown at all during the pandemic. So we're going to talk about that and some of the ways that he gets to status on different airlines and what his thoughts are for the future. So today, I'd like to welcome Chuck Brackett to my channel today. Chuck, how are you today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. Yourself?
Doing very well myself. Great to have you here. Where are you based out of, Chuck?
Well, we get around at the moment out of DC. But I'm a retired Navy, and my wife is still active duty Navy. So we've been around, done a lot of flying out of Ghana and Tunisia and Germany. And then
your home base is always changing, basically.
Yeah, really.
Right. And for what reasons are you doing a lot of this international travel?
Well, most of it really was for fun and for mileage runs. I got the bug for status when we were in Germany. I made a trip back and forth to the States a couple of times, picked up a silver on Delta, thought I was the king of the world with that flies often status, right? Was really depressed when KLM would not let me into their lounge in Amsterdam. You know, I said, but I've got this platinum card. And I said, no, wrong platinum card. So got the bug. And since then, really haven't looked back until we got shut down by COVID last year.
Yeah. So putting COVID to aside, is getting status thing that you really, really try to focus on as an annual goal while flying?
Yeah, it absolutely was. I got platinum organically one year doing some work trips, and that worked out really well. I realized that I was very close to diamond, and so I made it was one or two mileage runs that year to make diamond. Delta Diamond status is fantastic, as you know. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I really don't want to give this up. So the following year, I probably got maybe a third of my miles organically, and the rest was mileage runs. So I went to Lima a couple of times, went to Quito, Ecuador once, went to Bali once. Bali was fun. The plane landed. I rushed through security, rushed down. They gave me my boarding pass, and I rushed right back up through customs and security again so I could get right back on the same airplane.
And that was where?
To Bali.
So you didn't enjoy any time in Bali at all?
Few minutes in the airport.
Interesting choice for a destination and not getting off the airplane.
I didn't want to leave my wife with the kids any longer than I had to, and it was already like a 4-day trip.
Right. So, if that worked for you, it worked for you. I may have gotten off the airplane, spent a day or so. It is Bali.
Next time I will. And that was an economy, so that was a little bit brutal. Yeah.
Wow. And that really helped you get to your level of status. Now, have you been doing things like this for many, many years, or was that just kind of more of a recent thing?
No, that was in 17. So 17 and 18, I did some organic and a lot of mileage runs.
Mm-hmm. And does work call for any travel at all for you?
Job I'm in now should, if it weren't for the virus. I mean, we in January of 20, we went to Sri Lanka. One of my colleagues and I went to Sri Lanka for 2 weeks, and we had plans on the books already to make 3 or 4 other trips, a couple to Europe and one to Africa. And then 3 weeks after I got back from Sri Lanka, the world shut down.
Yeah.
And since then, haven't been in an airport, much less on an airplane. So.
Yeah, exactly. Now that trip to Sri Lanka, the planned trip to Sri Lanka, was that part of the SkyTeam network that you were going to be flying in?
No. So when I looked at the tickets to Sri Lanka, the best and most reasonable fare, fare and schedule that I come up with was American. And so my colleague and I flew American into Manchester, and then transitioned over to Etihad to Abu Dhabi, and then down to Sri Lanka. And coming back, we went through Paris and back into Philly.
Mm-hmm. An American.
Yeah,
And
and I was on a status challenge. I almost had 1K with American, and I was going to have it because I certainly would have done another mileage run or two to finish that off. But
we all know what happened. So American, you have no status on American Airlines. Then what about United and their carriers? Do you have any status with them too?
yeah, so I woke up very early in I don't think it was January the 2nd or 3rd in 2019, and found the Flyer Talk article that had posted about the Air New Zealand error fares, super great price, call it what you want to. And so I jumped on that and booked my wife and I a trip to Auckland. About an hour and a half later, so well, maybe we should take the kids too, because I have two, one middle schooler and one high schooler, and they were gone. So it was just me and the wife. It was a very nice 2 weeks. But what I did for that was I did a status challenge to 1K based on my diamond status, and got 3/4 of the way there.
For that one trip?
With that one trip. Yeah, well, it was United, was it United J? It was either United J or Air New Zealand J. One of them coded in as a J fare. So, that was like 200%, I think. So I got really close on that one trip. We actually flew into Sydney and then took Virgin across to Auckland, because I didn't take the time to do the more in-depth research that people smarter than me did. So I have since learned. So that for those who are interested in jumping on these types of fares, book something that works for you, and then immediately look for something that works even better, right? So get what you can get, and then try to find something that's perfect. Right. That way, if they're gone in an hour, you can still get there. I didn't do that. That was my lesson learned. But anyway, so we got back off of that trip, and I think I was good 3/4 of the way there. And so set up a mileage run. Went to this time I went to Kuala Lumpur. I actually spent a couple of days there.
Good for you.
Yeah, and was gifted what used to be the global upgrades that United has, but now they call them plus points. So 40 plus points, you can get an international upgrade to J. So yeah, it was a good ride. I bought economy and rode in the front both ways. So
very nice. So it was really those two trips that helped you on United. And what year was this?
That was in 19. So I bought them in January of 19. We went in August.
Mm-hmm. Right. And of course, both Delta and United and American extended status due to the coronavirus pandemic. Tell us about your flying in 2020. We're now in 2021. Did you do any flying at all since the pandemic hit?
Haven't even been inside an airport. Closest I've come is drop my wife off for a couple of trips here in Konis.
Okay, your wife has had the opportunity to fly. No.
She has, and it's one of those things. My sense is that I would fly if the opportunity presented itself and I had a reason to go. Mm-hmm. I've thought about jumping on some of these spectacular fares that we've seen around the world. Honestly, a mileage run hasn't been worth it. So I'm not worried about the airplane. The airport, a little more worrisome to me. So
yeah, or the destination, of course, too, whatever the COVID cases may be like. So what are your thoughts about this? So you seem like a person who's really, really into this in terms of getting your miles. I personally am thinking to myself, I really, really want to fly in the year 2021. I want to be able to get to hopefully the highest level of status that I can, but I'm thinking about ways that I can actually go ahead and do that. If you were to fly again, which airline do you think you'd prefer to fly on to get status on out of the big three?
That's difficult. I have been a Delta fanboy for a long time. I flew them a lot when we were in Germany, going back and forth to Charlottesville. Love Delta, love their people. And when you're on the DDMF page, folks there talk about how great their airline is and the others are terrible and they don't treat the people well. My experience on United has been incredibly good. I mean, it's been on par with the experiences that I've had on Delta. And honestly, the few flights that I had on American as a make-believe executive, I can't remember what they call it, executive platinum, I think. Their diamond equivalent, was a very good experience. I think that Delta's hardware, their hard product, was probably better than American's in my experience, which is very limited on American. But soft product and the flight attendants, I've had nothing but positive experiences on all three of the major U.S. carriers. But to your question, I think I would, all other things being equal, I think I would go for Delta Diamond first. And then United.
Any chance you think you'll be able to make Delta Diamond working this year at all?
Yeah, if the vaccines come through and if countries open back up for us, then yes, I think I can probably make it with work travel this year because most of our work trips are going to be in J. So you rack up the MQMs on that.
Right.
We're subject to Fly America, so I can't buy a KLM ticket and make the extra MQMs that way.
Sure.
So yeah, I think so. But we'll see. I mean, I'm ready to go if there's a reason that I need to. I'm not quite ready to just jump on a plane and go. Right. Even if I get the vaccine. So, and I haven't yet. So
yeah, it's going to take some time for everybody to get the vaccine. And, it's still even up in the air. And I've been doing these interviews for several months now, and we just still don't have a definitive answer as to, what can possibly be done. Like I said, I'm going to try my hardest to get to that point. I don't have the vaccine myself yet, but, it's going to take some time, I think, but I really, really want to get out there. Now, what's driving you behind this? Do you have a passion for aviation? One of the reasons why I do these interviews is to really understand what drives people to fly. And you walk around at an airport and you see different people and you wonder, well, what are they here for business? Are they here for a vacation trip, pleasure trip? And, do they understand the in and outs of the industry? Is that something that's always interested you?
Yeah, it has. When I was in high school, I decided that I wanted to be a Navy pilot, an Air Force pilot. Couldn't do aviation in the military because of my eyesight. So then I decided that I would go join the Navy and work in submarines. Did a 3-day underway on submarine once when I was in college and decided real quickly I didn't like submarines. I like the sun too much, and those guys just don't see the sun nearly as much as we do on surface ships. So went on active duty. At some point through there, got my private license. The first time I was ever on an airplane, I was probably a sophomore or junior in high school. And the next time was, 2 weeks after I graduated high school. It was the first time I went on a commercial flight, was to Great Lakes to go to boot camp to Illinois. But I've always been fascinated by airplanes and aviation. Getting my pilot's license definitely stoked that. I am, however, one of those private pilots that flies and is safe to fly and then doesn't fly again for 3 or 4 years and then goes back and flies again. It's a cycle. And it's been a little bit tougher with kids. I mean, my daughter is 17 and my son just turned 13 a couple of days ago. And so, the last few years have been kind of tough that way. I say as I've been jetting around the world on mileage runs, but it's different. But and then like I said, I make the mileage run and I get back as fast as I can, so my wife doesn't have to do everything herself. But yeah, I've always been fascinated by planes. I mean, just the idea that, I don't know what, 80,000-90,000 pound chunk of steel going through the air, 500 miles an hour, 35,000 feet up. mean, I understand the aerodynamics of it, but it's still fascinating to me.
Fascinating. And as often as I fly, I still treat each flight as the first flight. I'm still fascinated by it each individual time. You know, I can't fly without looking out the window every single flight. You know,
Like
just
clouds, right?
yeah, exactly.
Clouds.
Right. Understanding what's going on, and you pick up so much more as you keep doing it. And I really have a great appreciation for that. And that's one of the things which drives me to fly so often. What are some of your favorite airports or airplanes that you like to fly to or on?
Okay. So I love Charlottesville. I kid you not, you can walk in the door and be at your gate 3 minutes later. It's a tiny little airport. It got to the point when I was flying from Charlottesville to Ghana, the TSA agents knew me. They might not have known my name, but they recognized
Right.
me. And oh yeah, don't worry about taking your shoes off. You know, they knew. So love Charlottesville. I like Reagan. I think Reagan is national.
Nice airport. Yep.
Is yeah. I'm still conflicted about whether to call it Reagan or national.
Everyone is.
I've been around long enough.
BCA will say sometimes too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like Amsterdam. Amsterdam is incredibly efficient.
I like connecting there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, love the way they make it through. Mexico City can be okay, but if your timing is wrong, oh my God, it can be horrible to get through there. I mean, I've been at the front of the line and watched 5 people behind me grow into 300 people behind me in 5 minutes because of the way that they slot birds in.
Wow.
And so they get 3 or 4 wide bodies in at once, and boom, the arrival hall just packs.
Yeah.
Don't like De Gaulle. Stuttgart is okay. We were based there for a while, so I got to know Stuttgart fairly well. What was the airport in Berlin? Tempelhof was
That was the older one, yeah.
Yeah, the old one that was shut down that they may wind up reopening because they're having some problems in Brandenburg now.
Right.
But the way that that's set up almost like a horseshoe,
yes,
terrible.
Park now, I believe. Yeah, you can just go in there and ride your bike or do whatever you want in the park. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I haven't kept up with it, but we flew up there once, and it was absolutely a miserable experience at that airport. Probably the worst experience I've had in an airport, frankly. And I've flown into, I've flown into Cairo and Jordan and Bahrain, Tunisia, where else? Tel Aviv is a good airport.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really fast with security there too, because they already know if they're going to let you in.
Yeah.
Before you get there.
Yeah. The security process there is amazing. Great. And what about aircraft type? What's your favorite aircraft type or any particular seat on an airplane that you like? You're doing a lot of international travel, so you have to have some preferences.
I do. So the A350 is a phenomenal bird. Have you ever flown an A350?
Oh, I'm based out of New York City, and we just don't really get a lot of A350 traffic here. It's almost 767s and A330s.
Yeah. So I strongly encourage you to try to get an A350 ride. Go to Detroit if you have to, and then go to Asia. You can. My first flight on the A350, I was in premium economy on Delta, flying out of Detroit, and we took off. And I said, "Well, this plane seems kind of quiet." And the flight attendant walked up beside me. She did not bend over and started talking to me, and I understood her the way that I understand you now sitting here. Yeah. That's how quiet that airplane is. So phenomenal ride. 787 is much the same. That's also a very nice ride. Mm-hmm. I don't like the windows. That the electromagnetic dimming thing. Mm-hmm. Don't like it. You can't really make them black. And the flight attendants can open them or close them at any point that they want to. So
yeah, I've never been on the 787 myself, and I'm not looking forward to that. If someone actually does close it when I want to look out the window.
Yeah, I think it's more of an issue of them opening them when you don't want it. So you get that. Well, I would say a blast of light, but it's really not because they dim or undim so slowly.
Yeah.
And then the A380 is a great ride, although I don't know how much longer they're going to be around. Yeah. Flew the A380 a couple of times. Flew once coming back from Germany at the absolute tail end of the worst economy section on Air France's bird, which can be pretty bad. But I was up top on think it was Etihad.
Mm.
And that was a really nice ride with the little lounge and all. That was pretty sweet. I think that was an A380.
Yep. So you've really spread your business across multiple carriers throughout the years, and you've been rewarded in some aspects. Now, if you're flying on an airline like Etihad, I don't think they're really part of any. Are they part of any agreement at all where you can get?
So I booked those flights on American's website, and I lesson to your viewers: when you're flying on what seems to be a partner, go make sure it actually is. I don't quite know their partnership arrangement, but I got practically no mileage for status on that flight. I mean, I think I got a few redeemable miles, but status miles, almost nothing. I honestly thought that I was going to beat the full 35K flying in business by taking this trip. Had I known it better, I could have paid an extra $50 or $75, I think, and stayed on American much longer. And picked up a whole lot more elite miles that way. But that was my first time with One World, so.
And that's good information to share with everybody. One thing that I do is that if I'm going to make a reservation, and again, I pretty much stay within the Sky Team, and I'm going to be connecting at a different airport and going on to a different carrier, I actually always call the airline in advance and say, how many MQMs am I going to get? So I'll switch it to a different carrier that's going to provide me with more value as opposed to convenience in some cases. And I'm not, there may be a member of the consortium or the group that just may not be as high level as the others. And you go on that and you think, well, I'm really not getting anything out of it. So it's always important to double check before you hit that book button. And I'm a pick up the phone and call them kind of guy. So I just want to hear a voice and, they can look it up directly and tell you exactly what it is. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
And sometimes, it can be much better to fly the partner airline by flying Delta, for example. I mean, I took 2 trips. Well, I went to Lima twice and went to Quito. I flew out of JFK on those trips on Aeromexico 787s down to Mexico City. And then from there, it's a 737-9 to Quito or Lima. Now that's kind of a brutal bit of a trip. Quito wasn't so bad. Or no, I'm sorry. Which one was it? God, it's been so long. Anyway, the 737, when you're coming off of that 787 with the lie flat, and it's only 5.5 hours out to New York anyway. But then you get that 9 or 10 hour flight overnight. So, but yeah, I racked up, I don't know, 20-25% more miles than if I'd been on Delta Metal.
Really interesting.
Yeah. But it was at that point, and may still be, I don't know, it's been a while. At that point, there were often problems with getting your MQMs to credit automatically. And so on those trips, I think all of them, I had to engage with Delta and say, hey, look, I flew Aeromexico. I was in J. You guys didn't credit it right. And Delta people being what they were, within a couple, 3 hours, always, oh, we're very sorry, Mr. Brackett, and we'll get this fixed for you. And poof, it would be fixed. So, but it's an extra step you had to do.
Right. Absolutely.
So, and I think that was an idiosyncrasy that they had with Aeromexico specifically. I have not heard of people having those same issues with KLM and Air France, for example.
Yeah, each airline has different rules and regulations, so it's always interesting to learn, of course, the mistakes that someone can make. So great. Well, Chuck, that was great. And I really appreciate you sharing a lot of that information. A lot of the talking that I've done to many people has been really, really focused on one carrier. But this is very, very diverse, very, very broad. We got to talk about different airlines and how you're able to get status on them and go to really, really, really nice resort places and not get off the airplane and come right back again, which is interesting.
I recommend staying for a day or two.
I think you should. Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. That was great to talk about this diverse number of airports and airlines. If anybody out there would like to be featured on this particular channel, just send me a note in the comment section below, and I'd be more than happy to talk to you. Don't forget to like my channel and subscribe to my channel and hit that bell button so that you're alerted as to every time I post something new. Thank you, everybody. And thanks, Chuck.
My pleasure. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.